Alright, here we go, YouTube. Another Wyman video. So, tonight, I decided I would do a video, and I know it's been a while, but I haven't made a whole lot lately. I've actually been messing around with Fusion 360, learning the program, learning how to be more efficient at modeling, workflows, stuff like that, and actually how to use a lot of the tools in Fusion 360. It's a pretty complicated system, but it's very useful, and I'm learning a lot very quickly. So it's a good program to download and just start messing around, start playing with it. I've modeled up some stuff. This here I made for my son. Has these little things called magic tracks, and they glow in the dark, and they got a little flashing light car and stuff that goes with them, and they're kind of neat. And we were playing with Legos one night and stacking Legos up, and you put them up underneath the track, and it makes little, he calls them jumps, of course. And it's just, I got to thinking, hey, what can I do with this? So I made this little ramp, and you stick it up on a block, and then it goes across the block, and there's another section to it that I couldn't find for the video. He's been playing with it, so of course couldn't find it. But here's this piece, and I printed this out of a glow in the dark PLA, and so it glows, and it actually it glows really bright. So I was pretty impressed with this stuff, and it wasn't very expensive either. So, and it prints okay. I mean, there's some weird little variations and stuff in it. This was printed at I believe 0.25, so pretty fast print. And I'm still messing around with tuning my printer a little bit. And but I modeled this up, and I don't know, I spent maybe an hour messing around with it and trying some different tools, cuts, and whatnot. And yeah, it came out all right. It's not too bad. But yeah, it holds the track on there, and it's a neat little ramp. And maybe I'll make something else kind of like this for some crawler stuff or something. I'm not sure yet, but it was just something to try out, and it worked. And then I was trying some different modeling techniques, and modeled up a little hat and a little snowman. This was actually modeled, this guy here was actually modeled in sculpt mode on Fusion 360. And in sculpt mode on Fusion, you're able to basically use common, squares and pipe and spheres and stuff like that, and then you can grab faces of it and lines of it and actually pull it around and sculpt it like clay. And it's really cool. And I mean, I sculpted his arms completely out of, it started out as just a little what they call a quad ball that I stuck on the side of him here, and then just started clicking on different parts of it and pulling and pushing, and I mean, his fingers and everything all came from one piece in the modeling program. And then I just drew a line down the center of him and mirrored this feature, this arm, over onto the other side, and then basically stuck him together, and there he was. And I was messing with some different design ideas, and one of my ideas was, well, hey, Mr. Potato Head. So I modeled him like Mr. Potato Head with these little 3mm holes in his face, so that I can make different pieces to go in him for different facial expressions. Different types of material for his face and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. My original idea was that I would maybe have him holding a picture frame or something like that, and put a Christmas picture of the kids or something in him. And yeah, I mean, it's modeled his hat in a regular sketch style modeling surface, and yeah, a couple of lines and a revolve feature, and it was pretty easy. So, stuff like this I'm finding is it's kind of time consuming, but it's fairly simple to do. There's other things that I'm struggling with a lot, like excuse me, like on these fender flares that I've been trying to design, and I've done probably 6 or 8 different versions of it, and just how to get the right curvature on the back side to line up with the body of the Jeep that I'm trying to mount these to, and trying to get, so that it's not perfectly flat. It has just a little bit of a curve there, and then also a little bit of a curve towards the front, so that the front matches up to the grill right. And just that stuff is really hard, and just trying to figure out how to do it. And you can see I've done this was the first one, and it's completely flat, 100% completely flat. And then as I'm going along, doing different things to try to get the curvature. I tried making a piece that I thought had pretty close to the curvature that I wanted, and then also the shape of the fender cut out so that it would fit in there, and it just doesn't. It's really tough. It's really tough, guys, to figure that part out. And I just don't know quite how to go about doing it, but I'll figure it out, and when I do, I'll pass along what I learned. And that's kind of the name of the game here, is sharing the knowledge. I learned a whole bunch from other people, and I want other people to learn from what I do. So this is something else that I started making for the Jeep grills, and this is just my first design, and just kind of messing with how to quite make it fit right, and just seeing what I could do, what I could design and what I could make, and using and practicing using the different tools and stuff. And that's a big thing too, is practicing the different tools. So I'm picking up on that stuff, and I'm kind of learning, and then I'm also at the same time trying to work with making my prints better, making the quality of them come out better. How to tune the program, how to tune the machine, stuff like that, and figuring out what works and what doesn't, and different speeds and temperatures and all that. And I held out for a really long time. Everybody does it. Everybody that posts videos about 3D printing, I don't care what you look at about 3D printing, or whatever. At some point, you're going to see one, and so here it is. Finally, without any further ado, here's the Benchy boat. Okay, the Benchy boat is all about benchmark, finding settings on your printer, and finding settings in your slicer that will print a nice, clean Benchy boat. Now, I understood it from the beginning, and guys were talking about it, but I just didn't really get it. It was like, come on, guys, it's a boat. But the more I looked at it, and the more I looked at my prints, I started seeing it. Okay, so you got a nice square window here, okay, with a big overhang that basically that's got to try to print in midair right there at the front edge of this window. When it gets up these rails, it has to print right across that window, and it has to be able to hold and not droop and look goofy. Okay, the slope of the roof, it tends to stack up, and you can see the little stacks there at the top. And if you've got a good flow rate and stuff, that'll actually flow out pretty nice, which this one wasn't too bad. And then of course this curved little window right here, and a lot of times you'll see guys get big stringing issues and stuff across that, and this one didn't. It actually came out pretty good. The one thing I am a little concerned with on this thing is the stack. It's like it's stacking over, and I'm not sure why it's doing that. I gotta find settings in there of why this is got these big layer lines in it. But I will figure that out, and I'll let you know what I find on that. But otherwise, this thing printed really, really nice. And I thought, well, everybody does a Benchy about this size. Well, supposedly the Ender is a great little machine. So we did a mini Benchy. And oh my god, this thing is nuts. It printed this little teeny tiny, and mind you, this thing's pretty small, but if you look real close, you can see the hashtag Benchy across the back, and it is pretty legible. You can't see it quite that well on the phone, but it's pretty legible. And then you look at this little tiny guy, and this thing is not quite legible, but it's there. They tried to print it, and I just couldn't believe it. I mean, look at the little hole in the back of this thing. The windows have a little bit of goo right there at the top. A little bit of goo in the hole around the holes there. No drooping across that window there. And I mean, this thing is, guys, this thing is tiny, tiny, tiny. I mean, you're talking, this thing is 40 millimeters. 40 millimeters long. Not even 40 millimeters long. This thing is just tiny, tiny. And it printed it with no problem. And I actually printed this pretty fast. It printed in 36 minutes. I mean, yeah, the stovepipe is, I mean, it's shmoo, but it tried to print it. And it didn't do too bad. A little bit of stringing. But I think once I get my settings tuned in, I mean, this thing's it's gonna print that little teeny tiny boat, and it's gonna be amazing. So yeah, the Ender 2 through ID Maker Slicer. I couldn't believe it. So I will get this thing tuned in, and we'll print some more. Until then, keep making cool stuff.